All right, welcome back to Pints Politics, episode 40, the Mike Alstad edition.
Hey, look at that. We're coming prepared today. We researched, we Googled top athletes with the number 40.
Now, there's going to come a time where we're going to run out of numbers.
Yeah.
We're going to be naming offensive linemen before long.
That's right.
But, yeah, and to thank you to our sponsor, Comer Distributing, as always. Yeah.
Man, doing another Off The Tracks Brewing beers. And I tell you, they get creative with these names these days.
Yeah.
The beer name is Making Love at Midnight. Yeah.
What is that song? Something, something, After Midnight.
After Midnight by Eric Clapton.
Okay.
And it says pineapple toasted coconut wheat. That's a mouthful for sure. And we have our Everett Stubbs.
Cheers.
For Senate.
Our newest senator.
You know. Yeah, 29 votes, man.
After the recount. We were the first to report it. We just weren't live.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Ah, dang it. But, yeah, congratulations again to Everett Stubbs. And, hey, we can't pass this moment up to also thank Mike Fanning for his years of service, serving District 17. I'll
leave that to you.
I know he was on the other side of the aisle, but, you know, he has constituency. He served them, and more importantly, it's the way he handled the loss I thought was important for everybody to see.
I thought he handled the loss well.
You know what I mean?
I will give you that.
I mean, again, for 29 votes, and he conceded.
He had so much faith in our electoral process that
Correct.
He wasn't sitting there demanding a recount.
And 29 votes is tight.
Yeah.
Anyone could have asked. I don't know if I would have been not asking for a recount. 29 votes is, when you consider the provisional votes was, say, 100-something, just in one of the counties of the 4 that District 17 falls in, or 29 votes, there was, 100-something provisionals, and all but, 40-something were tossed, right, because of incorrect information and all that kind of stuff.
If it would have been me, I'd have probably called and said, can you not find me 20? No, I'm just kidding.
So, yeah. So, again, I mean, that
shows it's handled well. I'll say that.
Give respect where respect is due. I don't care if they're a D or an R.
Speaking of other new senators, we went down for our Republican caucus, and in the garage, did you see Tom Fernandez's vehicle?
I did not. What was it, a tank?
Yeah, it looks like a Hummer with a slanted back with dual wheels on the back. I mean, it's close to a tank.
Really?
Yeah.
Just in case, right?
Well, he said it was going to be the only time that he drove it down there. But, yeah, it's taking up 2 spaces. I mean, that thing was huge.
Who does he think he is? Senator Goldfinch?
He's Tom Fernandez. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And that's
I've followed him for years, even whenever I was running for county council. But he's, huge Second Amendment. He's a bit of a troll online, which I always appreciate. So I like to follow those people.
Oh boy! So the Senate's in for some entertainment this term.
I think I'm hopeful that Tom will come in like I did and try to listen more instead of speaking first, and try to get a lay of the land. And I think he's smart enough to do so.
Yeah.
My only fear, I mean, he doesn't have a group to be in his ear telling him what to do either.
Yeah. What's his experience? Is he an attorney?
Yeah, he's an attorney.
So another lawyer legislator.
Yeah.
Man.
Down in the Charleston, Dorchester area.
Berkeley area?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, speaking of Thursday, we had told the audience, our 2 listeners, that we were heading down for our first official Republican caucus meeting.
Yep.
What'd you think? Just initial thoughts.
I think everything changed 24 hours before we went down there because we all had text messages sent out against us.
Oh.
Calling everyone in the Republican caucus the swamp. It was reminiscent of...
We're all fans of Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. It was pictures of us with Nancy Pelosi saying, vote against the Nancy Pelosi-style rules. And it wasn't talking about
Now,
the
I do follow
rules.
Nancy Pelosi's stock picks. I do not follow her politics, though.
Yeah. So as we started getting those, it was reminiscent of me, made me think of whenever
Adam Morgan
we were
dropped the
going
letter.
we were going to change the rules before.
Yep.
And allow it for everyone to be in the same room, and then Adam Morgan writes a letter bashing every Republican caucus member right before we go in to vote.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that and again,
I mean, it almost seems planned. Like, oh, let me just piss everyone off before they go in to vote.
a little coordination.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It come from D.C. dark money out of Texas.
I had some time to speak with one of the Freedom Caucus members. We should call them the Freedom Party. Let's stop calling them the Freedom Caucus. They're not aligned with the Republican Party. I would say it's reminiscent.
According to their agenda, everything was from the Republican Party platform.
Well, it could be born out of that,
Yeah.
but they've bastardized it since then.
Yeah.
But I was talking to one of their members, and I said, hey, I mean, we're kicking off this session. I understand, and again, this is a little tongue-in-cheek, right? But I said, I understand that we're down here, so y'all might as well ride our coattails a little bit and have a press conference, right? So while we're in our business meeting, having our meeting, they're out
Hosting a press conference.
hosting a press conference in the echo chamber that is the basement of the statehouse.
Yeah.
And I said, and then y'all blast out this text to all of our districts, calling us Nancy Pelosi, trying to call us liberal. And he said, no, that wasn't us. And I said,
That's his buddy's
Well,
campaigning
I said, well-
company out of Texas.
and I said, listen, I understand that it wasn't you personally, but you do understand that there is some back channels and connections with that coordinated effort, right?
With D.C.
And
Yeah.
he sat there with a straight face and said, not to my knowledge, I don't know any, I said,
It's funny, they didn't send any against Democrats or Freedom Caucus members,
Yep.
just the Republican
and
caucus
I said, listen,
members
you're,
as we came in.
during our first term, we didn't see it, right? We came in eyes wide open. We talked to anybody and no assumptions. Now in our second term, we're a little more battle hardened. We've seen the antics, the tactics of which are employed by the Freedom Party on the floor of the House. And it's just one prank too far, They keep trying to throw rakes out in front of us.
I thought we were going to come into this session new leadership, new approach,
No.
and then the text comes out.
Nope.
Yeah.
And, in talking with some folks who are in the business of special interest groups, running campaigns, making money.
And people need to understand there are more, if not just as equal, special interests on the right than there are the left.
And so one thing that voters and our two listeners should understand is when there is a rub, where there's a point of irritation between whether it's Democrats and Republicans or Republicans and Freedom Party members, folks can make money off of that.
Right.
There is a monetization going on, whether it's advertising, email blast, text blast, commercials, mailers, whatever. There are folks who make money off of that.
Yeah.
And in talking with a veteran politico in the state, I said, listen, I need to understand all of these groups behind the party system, the two-party system, and now the Freedom Party. This is a third party. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I just need to understand who makes money, because I need to identify and understand when these people are coming at me for a certain vote. I like to see around the corner. And this person just said, generally speaking, South Carolina is just a prime market for DC style or professional grade or campaigns to come down
Because so
here
many have ran presidential campaigns.
and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
The media markets are cheaper. They can still charge retail rates. And we had a great conversation about it, and I really understood I think the politics of maybe 20 years ago. What we're moving into now is it's going to be a different landscape.
Well, I mean, and so we as Republicans in the Republican caucus, our focus is to ensure that we are working together and rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
And we are the majority So we don't have any excuses. We can pretty much do what we want to do now. Yeah. So we will continue to push forward, and the only hang-up's going to be what the Senate will do.
Right.
And we can sit here and say, oh, well, we want to make it more conservative, but knowing that the Senate's not going to pass it and things just die over there.
Yeah.
But we want to pass legislation. And whenever we've got, we only have the Republican caucus. The Republican Party itself does not back up the Republican caucus.
Right.
But yet, whenever you start talking about the Freedom Party, you've got which, by the way, they took down their South Carolina Freedom Caucus website.
Why?
So it is not out there anymore. Maybe it's because RJ Diddy on there. I don't know. But the website itself is not out there anymore. They've got a guy, Andy Roth, that runs a state Freedom Party for all of the states. And then they've got the D.C. funding, which is funding that on top of it. It is literally D.C. money. It is swamp tactics in order to gain control in every single state. And then they pretend that they are the grassroots group because they set up these AstroTurf organizations to become their echo chamber.
Right. Well, and for the two listeners, when we're talking about this, I would say this political landscape that is in a transition period, what I mean by that, how you're going to see that is, for instance, and I'm just going to use my personal experience. When I ran for District 46 House seat, I was asked to run by folks in the community, friends, and then I actually got, like Senator Clymer.
Yeah.
Wes called me and said, hey, your name's being mentioned. If you would ever even consider running, would you? And, I tell the story a lot. I said no 2 or 3 times, and then finally
Then you see my yellow hat.
Yeah. And so that is a truly organic.
That's recruitment to fill the position.
Right.
Within the community.
Correct. And so a lot of people didn't know me inside politics, right? I didn't attend Republican monthly meetings.
Right.
The way you and Wes and, say, Joel did. But folks in the community of Rock Hill knew me just because I've served on boards or been in, just charitable efforts, that sort of thing.
Always involved.
But now what you're going to see is folks being moved into districts by these groups who support the person who's not even, say, from Rock Hill. For instance, Elizabeth Inns. Okay?
Moving out of one district to another.
She ran against you in District 48, Lake Wiley, right?
Mm-hmm.
She loses. You beat her. Then she moves to Fort Mill, and then she runs again. And I'm not saying that's what encouraged her. That was her motivation. But I'm using the physical example.
She moves a little bit to the east, then she can run against Mike Neese.
So what happens is these groups who align with someone like an Elizabeth Inns says, hey, there's going to be a vacancy in a few years when so-and-so retires. Or they made a vote that was questionable on guns, abortion, whatever
we'll say school choice.
That red meat is.
So you got a lot of funding that comes from the school choice right now.
And there's an opportunity that we could pick up a seat.
Right.
And then that person will physically move. I think you're going to see more out-of-towners or folks who don't live in a district recently move into other districts that may be considered vulnerable and run.
Yeah.
And it's because...
No question.
And it's because politics is a business.
I'm already seeing somebody that
can make money.
Ran in Myrtle Beach this last time that is now involved in my district's local political parties.
Really?
Yeah. So
okay.
we'll see how that goes.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But that is.
But it becomes whenever you put a target on your back. Whenever I start calling out the BS and the hypocrisy, whenever I see it, I know it puts a target on me. But I will never make a decision on whether it's going to protect me for my next election.
Yeah, you're not making decisions for political expediency. No. You're making them on what I'm calling balls and strikes.
And I'm a little bit more vocal because I'm very disappointed because many of these people were the people I thought were being the genuine people.
Before getting to the Statehouse, right, I think you and I would align ourselves with what the Freedom Party espouses to be.
Right.
But then when you actually get behind the curtain and you actually see the actors, and when the cameras come on and the lights come on, you see the production.
Right.
You see the circus, you see the theater of it, and it's like, it's not what I thought.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you don't want to move because of this or that. And I use the example, I thought it was very funny this week on Twitter or last week whenever Trump's making his nominations. I see Adam Morgan post on there, and he posts his video that, supposedly was paid to go viral, of him talking at the well 2 years ago. And I see that on there, and he's like, hey, if you need anybody with DOGE. And it reminds me of whenever I went to Greenville to open up for DeSantis, and Adam was in the back room, but I was like, hey, he hasn't endorsed DeSantis. Like, what's he doing back here?
Yeah.
And DeSantis wanted to meet with him because DeSantis was a founding member of the Freedom Caucus and on the federal level. And,
gotcha.
So he's talking to him, and the words that were said to DeSantis was, I really want to support you. Like, I believe in you more than anything, but my people, they just really love Trump. But I think that you're the only one that could beat Trump. My response was, well, whenever your balls drop, maybe you can get behind whoever you need to.
Wait a minute, back up. You buried the lead there. Did you say Adam Morgan paid for that thing to go viral?
Well, that was what I guess the campaign that was going against Adam Morgan was saying, that he paid Charlie Kirk or one of those groups to go viral, which is pretty obvious. If you ever watch Glenn Beck, you'll notice how he has specific people on for specific things, and it all goes back to that D.C. money.
I was about to say, man, I thought only Kamala Harris did that. Paying Oprah.
Well, that's one of the problems that I have is you see a lot of this. The Freedom Party tactics are nothing more than what the liberals do, and it's the things that we've complained about.
Right.
It's the playing victim. It's we want to be part of the caucus. Get all of your people to tell them to remove Rule 16 so we can become part of the caucus.
Yeah.
And then the day before we go in for it, you send out a mass text calling everyone in the caucus swamp.
Yeah, correct.
With pictures of Nancy Pelosi. It's very disingenuous. It's political games.
Well,
and it's all about raising money. And whenever the swamp fighters become the swamp, that is the issue.
And that is what I mentioned earlier. I was talking to a member of the Freedom Party, and from his side, it's y'all kicked us out.
But only one person's ever been kicked out of the Republican
and I said, well,
caucus.
No, it's not that. It's you guys couldn't abide by the rules
that were voted on.
Yeah. Right. And again, are we talking 6 and half dozen the other? It's a matter of perspective, but you and I voted to get them back in the room a year or so ago.
My argument has been,
but hold on a second.
Okay.
But I think it's escalated now, right? When you have
because it's such bullshit still going on.
When you have your founding member, R.J. May, basically saying the number one priority is to oust Speaker Merle Smith, who is he's the leader of the Republican caucus. That's not.
And you're recruiting people
correct
against all of these Republicans.
That doesn't say that you're genuine when you extend an olive branch.
Right. And I could understand. Let's say you've got somebody that you really disagree with because the narrative is, what if they do this and what if they do that? So you've got somebody, let's just say they're for late-term abortion and they're in the Republican Party. Everything else is Republican, but they're for late-term abortion.
Yeah.
I could understand a group saying, look, we need to find somebody to run against that guy.
Right.
Because this is my most important issue.
Correct.
But that's not the case with these candidates.
No.
They're putting people up. If someone wants to run and they just say, we're going to be Freedom Party, then they go ahead and get behind them. And so, why the hell would Thomas Beach go and talk against Don Chapman, who is a freshman who has been very conservative?
Yeah.
Why the hell would Jordan Pace go against Carla Schuessler?
Right.
And it's because they didn't join their club, so now they view everybody as the enemy, but yet they want to play victim.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter remains is the only reason rules were created to begin with, you had Jonathan Hill got kicked out of the caucus, the only person to ever be voted out of the caucus.
Broke confidentiality.
Because he would basically go into a caucus meeting, come right out and hold a press conference.
Yep. R.J. May would break good faith.
But before even that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So
but
it started with Jonathan Hill.
Jonathan Hill was voted out, and it only took 50% of the caucus to vote him out.
Yep.
Right? So he's the only person to be kicked out. So whenever we were coming in as freshmen, there was going to be a rules committee. It was comprised of multiple Freedom Caucus members and multiple Republican Caucus members to come together on these rules. Now, there was a lot of people that were complaining about R.J. May and the way that he handled campaigns within caucus, and he was taking things that were said in caucus meeting and putting them on flyers.
Or how he was basically
making money.
He was using he put on his campaign hat, walked onto the statehouse floor, and then started putting up amendments that would benefit the campaigns he was managing.
Right. And just in the one race against Travis Moore, he was paid close to $90,000.
84.
Which I know that's not profit, but still.
It's revenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
At minimum, you're going to make 10%. More than likely, it's 20 to 30%.
Correct.
But still, that was just by going against another conservative. And no one's ever going to question if Travis Moore is conservative, right?
Some do.
Out of Spartanburg.
Some do in the Freedom Party, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't understand that. But anyway, to get someone to run against Travis Moore, and Travis and RJ came in as freshmen together.
Yeah.
As well, that became an issue. So with the rules that came out, one of the rules that was proposed by one of the Freedom Party members said we need to all sign these to state that we understand the rules, so no one says that we haven't received the rules. So it was a signing that you have received the rules and you agreed to abide by them.
Yeah.
There was also a rule that said if you break these rules, the way that we're going to handle this is we're going to put you up to vote, but instead of 50%,
right,
now you got to have two-thirds.
Yeah.
And
so there was a higher threshold to be kicked out of the Republican caucus. And again, I thought that was a wise move.
Right.
For all things considered, right? Because you can't have, just because you disagree with someone, you can't kick them out, right?
Right.
And so that two-thirds
we don't want leadership just saying, oh, you didn't do what I said, so you're out of the caucus.
Right.
If you had someone in leadership that's trying to demand you to do something.
Yes.
Right? Because none of us want to give up our vote. We represent people.
Yeah.
The people come before the caucus.
Yep.
That's the way it should be, right?
And we've talked about this a lot, and I know the Freedom Party will go out on social media and say
they won't say anything. They won't reply to anything I've said.
No. I'm saying the Freedom Party will go out and say during session a lot of times, Representative so-and-so voted as he was told or how she was told and this, that, and the other. For the two listeners out there, the PSA for this episode, the Republican caucus does not vote in a block.
No.
The Republican caucus or leadership
I've
or
never been
whips
told how to vote.
do not tell any member how to vote. The way it works is if there is an issue that is a conservative policy issue, let's just say we want to cut taxes, right? But for some reason, there is a member of the Republican caucus that can't support the bill. Maybe it's a semantic wording language issue. What the whips ask is, hey, who's for this bill and who isn't against this bill while on the floor while debate's going on? Or do you have any questions?
Do you have any amendments that you're going to be putting
Correct.
up?
So if you're a whip and you've got 10 members that you're trying to help with the vote, understanding the bill, all those things, and you got 2 members, 8 of them say, yeah, I'm for this bill, and then you have 2 that say, I've got issues.
Yeah.
The whip will try to clarify any issues they have, answer any questions they have, and then
let's air it out in the room instead of on the floor of the
hey, you're going to vote no? Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
They want to know how you're going to vote, and that's it. They don't direct your vote. And so there's
you don't want to bring something up on the floor from whenever you're the majority, and then you only get 1/3 of your own group
right.
to vote and support it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a discussion to find out what works, what doesn't work, and how we move forward.
Correct.
But, so as we're sitting in that caucus meeting, the other rule that was brought up was evidently there was not a lot of communication because of the way RJ had did things. So the rule that was proposed was 16, and Rule 16 said you cannot campaign against another member in good standing of the caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to be in there, why are you going after somebody?
Right.
Well, that got twisted around to, if I post a picture of the board, that's campaigning.
Right. Well, let me address another thing on that. So another thing that got brought up is I think a Freedom Party member said, well, wait a minute. What if in the future, so this hasn't even happened yet, but what if in the future a member of the Republican caucus, let's just, for example, out of Colleton County, gets their house searched and they're charged for looking at child porn,
sex abuse material,
and trafficking that stuff. Okay,
yeah.
Let's just say hypothetically,
can we not
speaking,
speak out against them?
I would want this Freedom Party member says I would not support that candidate, and I would support any opponent that ran against that person who was looking at child porn. Okay, and the quick answer for me that came to mind was, well, obviously, the way the rules read, it's a member in good standing.
Right. We could bring them up and kick them out at that time.
Correct. So if your house is searched for child porn and all the rest that comes with the charges, a trial, and all the convictions and all those things, obviously that member will not be in good standing.
Right.
So that's a moot point.
Well, it's a talking point for them. That's the reason it continues. And it continues to be a talking point because that's the point that they said, we're not going to be part of the caucus because you're taking away our First Amendment right to speak up.
That's ridiculous.
And that became the blood oath, the loyalty oath, whatever they call it.
Yep.
And the only reason they call it an oath is because we signed the rules, which one of their members proposed that to begin with, right? So then they refuse to agree to the rules and then try to walk into a caucus meeting, to which we have Sergeant in Arms and everybody else say, you are not a member of the caucus.
Yes.
You're only a member of the caucus if you agree to the rules.
Yeah.
Now, the first time we had this discussion, all of them were in the room, right? And many of them signed the rules. They came back and rescinded their signature, right? But this time going around, the problem that we have is we got a bunch of new freshmen. And it's going to depend on how you're being led. Do you have a group that is leading sheep to slaughter? Or do you have a group that's being honest with you about what's going on? But the only way to be in the room is to agree to the rules. And if you agree to the rules, you can then leave at any time. Nothing's forcing you to stay there. You're not signing a contract or anything else. You're just saying...
It's literally not a blood oath.
Right. If there's at any time, if I'm sitting in the room and they start saying everyone needs to vote this way.
Yes.
I would probably say I'm not doing that. And if they wanted to bring it up, I'd just say, look, I'm leaving the caucus.
Correct.
Like, I'm not that person.
Correct.
But yet they act as if, once you're in there, you can't leave. Yeah. So we had freshmen show up to our caucus meeting, and some that were, not supported, or the Freedom Party ran ads and stuff against them. Of course, they're going to be in the Republican caucus right away. But we even had, Freedom Party people that come in.
Someone who ran as a Freedom Party member.
Right. And signed the rules, but just didn't agree and ended up leaving in the middle. There's no problem with that.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal would have been for everyone to come in, listen to the rules, let's have the discussion as Republicans, if we are all Republicans, and decide the best way to move forward. But so many instead were sending out and putting up this national message of I work for the people. I'm not giving up my voice and my vote to any special interest in Columbia. What they call it, the Columbia Crony Capitalism Club. No, it became the same message over and over. Unfortunately, one of the members of our delegation sent out this long message of a lie because she hasn't been in the room one bit to even know if what she's being told is true. She's just listening to the people leading the sheep to slaughter.
It was unfortunate because, this new member who just got elected went through a tough election. I think primary was the main challenge for her. And obviously, she still bore those wounds, right? I didn't even know who she was. Again.
But the narrative was the Republican caucus recruited someone to run against her, which I can say 1,000% is a false narrative.
Well, and again, I'm just speaking to her or about her situation. You know, she ran on Freedom Party platform, whatever that is.
Well, she agreed to join the Freedom Party right away just to get Ralph Norman's endorsement.
Yeah, and so
if you look at the people Ralph endorsed in the local elections, it was only people that agreed that they would join the Freedom Party.
Right. So she wins. She's successful. Congratulations to her. But my issue was when she got up, she assumed that everyone knew who she was, right? And maybe that's fair because what does she know, right?
You're talking about someone else. I apologize.
Yeah. I'm thinking this person added the Spartanburg delegation, and there was members of the Spartanburg delegation that extended grace to her and apologized, like said, "Hey, I wasn't part of that," but
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's the other misconception is everyone thinks that
it's just unfortunate.
Just because there's ads and stuff ran, like we had something to do with that.
Yep.
Just like I don't think Thomas Beach sent out text messages against us.
He did not.
But his group certainly did. And to deny it as being disingenuous, it's pretty obvious that it only went out against Republican caucus members. And it's the same.
And it was like the same day.
Old, tired bullshit message that's coming out. And it's 24 hours before we decide whether we're going to let them in the room or not. Well, that blood oath narrative went so well last time. Why don't we try to continue it and piggyback off of it? And let's schedule a press conference the same day.
Yeah.
Because we know we're not going to be in the room. Let's go ahead and schedule that press conference.
Well, and again, I got a call about that text message. They're like, what is that? And I said, look, when we took up the heartbeat bill, right, to protect the unborn in our first term, the Democrats brought in over 1,000 amendments.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were, I would say, legitimate, but the
most
majority
duplicated
was an amendment to change some language that said, let's change the state motto from "As I breathe, I hope" to "Y'all means all." I mean, and literally, we have to spend possibly 12 minutes
just debating that
amendment, right? So you can imagine 1,000 amendments times 10 or 15 minutes a piece, how long that could take. Now, we did spend, 2 or 3 days sorting through all those?
We did. We were there till 2 o'clock in the morning,
right?
And the power went out.
And so what this text message that some of our constituents received this past week was in regards to us changing the House rules to allow us to cut down on shenanigans like that, to cut down and cut through the BS and the fat and get to, if there's real amendments, let's consider them.
If you're really trying to change the bill, let's discuss it. If you're just trying to be an obstructionist,
correct,
and you don't have a chance, why are we wasting the state's time and money in arguing it?
That's right. And so I think it's hilarious that the folks who try to say that they're true patriots and fighting for the South Carolina taxpayer want to waste taxpayer dollars. And so anyway, these new House rules that we have talked about as a caucus before.
But they spin it as we just want to get out early so we can go over to halls or wherever.
Whatever. We do want to expedite debate, but we want to give ample time for legitimate concerns or amendments, right? So what our two listeners may not know is the rules that the House was talking about adopting are the same rules that the Senate
already have.
And they've been doing it for years. And it's because they had a member in the minority party in the Senate chamber, i.e. the Democrat, that would hold up an education bill, a heartbeat bill.
He's no longer a senator.
Tax reform bill, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
Whatever the Republican caucus over in the Senate was trying to pass, and they would obstruct. And so the Senate, in their wisdom, said, hey, we'll give you a little bit of time, but you're not wasting taxpayer dollars and our time just so you can grandstand for politics, right? Because you're going to take that video.
Just so you can get a video and go pay Charlie Kirk to make it go viral.
That's right. And so, in a nutshell, that's
because most of these amendments should be debated within committee.
Yes.
And you 100%. Don't have to be on that committee to get your amendment heard. You could go to any member of that committee and ask them to submit it.
Yeah.
And are you telling me that you were so disliked that not one member, and most committees are what, 20-something plus members?
Yeah.
Not one person on that entire committee is willing to submit your amendment?
Right. That should.
I mean, that's
something.
just a BS.
Yeah.
That's just a BS narrative.
So, and let's put a button on the Freedom Party stuff. You know, for a group of folks that are so principled,
I used to think that.
Self-proclaimed. For a group that's so principled and, you know, just want to wear a badge on their chest about they're the purest of the pure. When we would pass a heartbeat bill, or when we would pass law enforcement pay increases, they would find the 5-10% of the bill that was not perfect, and they would go out and have a press conference about it.
Yeah.
They would go on Truth Social, Twitter, and post about it and get all of their shadow groups behind them to start burning up our phones or our emails. Contact your representative. You know, they're too liberal to do this, that, the other. For them, and again, we've talked about this before, they have their founding member, R.J. May's house has been searched. He is under current investigation, federal investigation.
And they're saying charges will become.
Yep, for possession of CSAM materials. Now, this is an ongoing investigation, so
Here on known as R.J. Diddy.
we're not saying that this person's guilty. We're saying that their house has been searched. It is under a current investigation. That member is under current investigation for child sex abuse materials, okay? For them, I mean, and how long has this been? This has been months.
Yeah, since when, August?
For them to come out, and I think they had a member say that RJ's a good guy, don't doubt his character, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And now just most recently, their current chairperson, Jordan Pace,
Quoted.
trips over his shoelaces and says, when we come back in session, we will
Open him with.
we will
welcome
accept him with open arms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh, this fits so perfect.
So, I mean, that blows me away.
Yeah.
And
Still a member of the caucus, too.
again,
But
guys of the Freedom Party, just say, due to the circumstances that RJ's under current investigation and the seriousness and the gravity of those charges, and
it's best for him to step away.
he has not been to a Freedom Party meeting
according to them. I think it's BS. I
in
don't think
a
that
few
none
months.
of them's talked to him.
Again,
Yeah.
I am saying, issue the release, get it over with.
Yeah.
But for them to have just a total lack of character and courage that they claim to have on political issues,
Yeah.
to stay silent is unbelievable to me.
Well, and the other thing that really blows me away and has blown me away for a while is they keep pushing this narrative as a loyalty clause within the rules, correct? Well, their own federal Freedom Caucus
Yeah.
had a member of the Federal Freedom Caucus endorse Bob Good, who was the chairperson's opponent during the race, and Bob Good lost. So
Yeah.
what did the Federal Freedom Caucus do?
They kicked that guy out.
They took a vote and they ejected the person
Who supported.
who supported
Bob Good's
someone
opponent.
against a caucus member.
Correct.
Because who wants to be in the room with people that spend money trying to bash you constantly?
Poetic justice.
Right? But none of them will say anything like that. I keep asking that question to all of them.
I
and
saw that.
they try to play dumb and say, oh, I don't know. Like the first time I asked Jordan Pace about it, what does he do? He goes and tags Ralph Norman in it. It was like, I understand people confuse us with Congress members, but we're not the Congress, or we're not Congress. We're just statehouse, and we deal with our rules. Okay, so why aren't you saying anything about the group that funds you out of D.C. having the exact same rule? If it's all about being righteous, why aren't you saying, why do y'all have a loyalty clause?
Yeah, correct.
And the only reason that doesn't pick up media is because we don't have a federal backing of all these funds to sit here and pay Glenn Beck or Charlie Kirk or anybody else to sit here and put that out there.
Well, and you ain't going to bite the hand that feeds you, dog.
Patrick Bet David and Joe Rogan were about two of the only people to actually bring that up. And yet, these podcast people are the ones that's listening to it. And then the other funny thing is all of these people, for some reason, now they're all about riding Trump's coattails, which some of them were endorsed by Trump. I understand it.
Yeah.
But to sit there, and then you've got the people that are following them, and they don't bother to correct them. No. To say all these people are rhinos, and we need people that will support Donald J. Trump and vote them out, and yet that person, wasn't even endorsed by Donald Trump, and the person they're complaining about was endorsed by Donald Trump. It's just whatever bullshit that they can spew, and it drives me crazy.
Well,
but we need to take a break, and then we need to discuss our rules that we come out with, or our agenda. Or do you want to go ahead and hit the agenda?
No. Let's take a brief little break, and we'll come back and talk about the business that we took care of Thursday while we were down in Columbia.
What was that?
Let's talk about what? You don't know the Killers, man?
I don't know that one.
Come on.
If it ain't Wu-Tang or country, I don't know it very well.
Folks, Representative Guffey has never heard the Killers, the man.
Yeah, I don't know it.
Come on, are you serious?
I don't know it.
This could be your walkout song.
It could be.
Hey, Wes has YMCA. Yeah, this is good. You should check it out. I'll share it with you. All right, so let's on a more positive note, let's talk about some of the policy issues, goals that leadership set forth. Folks, when we go to session, when we got out of session, June this past year?
Yeah.
Obviously, everything's contingent upon what happens in November with the elections. But we start having conversations
about what's important and what
we
we're
want to
moving
work
forward.
on. What are some issues that are important to us?
We can see set up groups to go through this.
Correct. And the cool thing is a lot of times we're all thinking the same things, or there may be a collective sort of rising tide lifts all boats of 8 to 10 members who want to say, man, we keep getting these surpluses. Why aren't we cutting taxes yet, right? And I think that was the question that leadership sort of posed to us before we left. And we've all been thinking about different ways of how we can give the taxpayers a break, right? During this Biden-Harris administration, inflation has gone through the roof. Bad federal fiscal policy has led to too much money chasing too few goods, and there you get inflation. So one of the number one goal for us is to deliver historic tax cuts in this next session.
We've got to change that. I mean, that's one of the things that we've often said. The misconception is that we print money like the federal government does. Our tax amount that we're using in taxes goes up because our revenue is going up. Mm-hmm. So as that's going up, if we can continue to pass those savings down to lower the taxes so we don't have to offer so many business incentives and everything else, why not go that route?
And these are similar things that we talked about when we did the Holy City Brewing with Senator Sean Bennett.
Yeah.
We talked about a uniform tax code that...
And I didn't think it was even possible then. I'm like, oh, man, are we even going to be able to get to hear something like that?
Yeah,
and then the top agenda, the top thing on the Pillars for Progress from the legislative, from Republican Caucus legislative agenda is to go ahead and do a tax cut.
Yep, and I would love to see zero. I think you and I have talked about this before. We had Senator Clymer on. He's, this is something that is universal amongst the House Republicans and Senate Republicans. And I think we should take advantage of those headwinds. And so does leadership. Leadership has said that's going to be the number one probably agenda item for us coming right out of the gates in January of 25. So
and that's important. I think everybody, every conservative can get behind lowering our tax burden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes people want to go to Florida, Texas, Tennessee. You know, let's get rid of the state income tax. But the problem that we really face is we have such high, because of Act 388, we have very high business taxes.
That is your favorite.
I hate it, man. I'm telling you, if you ever served on county council, you would understand how detrimental it is.
Right. Well, because you were making special carve-outs to all those special interests. Rhino.
But, yeah, I hear you. But we see how the funding is not right.
That and chickens, to be fair.
Chickens.
Chickens.
Chickens was my first thing.
You know what? I got a Christmas idea. You know, the Gamecocks are going with that silhouette of the chicken, the rooster, the gamecock, you know? I'm going to get you one of them hats.
Wow.
And people won't know what it's for unless they live in York County.
Whenever I was trying to pass the chicken ordinance, I was Googling because I was trying to wear like T-shirt or like polos or dress shirts and ties and all that. I would just tell people, if you are looking for a tie with chicken on it, never Google the term cock tie. It does not end up as well.
Yeah.
You will want to replace your phone so you don't end up, under some type of investigations or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
So it's not something to look up. Now, our number 2 pillar for progress, business friendly policies. Addressing the liquor liability or tort reform, support our small business, and remove a lot of the barriers with the regs, which we're constantly having to face.
And again, I think this is a consensus issue for Senate Republicans and House Republicans. You know, Majority Leader over in the Senate, Senator Massey, made an attempt to get this done in the Senate. Fell a little bit short last year, but the Senate body the makeup has changed. So let's see what they can do. I think this is going to be something that they're going to take up, that and energy, right? I just have this feeling that those bills will be Senate bills. Now, I could be wrong.
Doesn't matter as long as we get it accomplished. I don't care where the credit's coming from.
And that'll be good for Senator Garrett. You know, he can finally do some mailers and put some Senate bills to demonstrate how conservative he is. That's an inside joke for the two listeners out there. Us on the House Republican side enjoyed. Senator Garrett literally had one of his mailers, and for the 4 things that he cited that made him conservative, they were all House bills.
I mean, he supported them, but they all just started with an H.
But they originated in the House.
But again, a lot of times, that's where we run into trouble. Is a pissing contest on whether the Senate gets the win or the House gets the win, and it shouldn't be.
And if you listen to this show regularly, there's 2 of you at least. You can tell when we have senators on, there's a healthy competition or banter going on.
It's kind of like firefighters and police officers.
Yeah. You know, we're all there for the public good, but you know, you're going to get an elbow.
Yeah.
So, that liquor liability one's big. So if Senator Massey and the Senate can give us something that addresses that, that'll be awesome. Because if not, we're going to have to take that up singularly focused, and maybe it's a House bill. I don't know. I know we made the attempt last year. So let's see what happens. I would
half-hearted attempt last year.
I would love to see the Senate, if they can, again, the House pass an energy bill. The Senate don't like to be outshined, so they're taking it up this year. So if they want to take the lead on energy this go around and tort reform, great. We'll take tax reform, and some other things about protecting kids from child predators. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's plenty of work for all of us to do, both chambers. So that's something that we need to get done.
Number 3 on the pillar was fueling South Carolina's booming economy while addressing the demands and opportunities that come with rapid growth.
And a big one on that is the infrastructure investments.
Infrastructure is huge.
Man, businesses do not come here.
Energy.
If there's not exactly economical and available energy, roads, bridges, all of those public utilities that a business needs.
I got to point this out because you brought it up.
Hey, also, good health care, good schools, a quality of life. All of those things are connected in attracting, whether it's businesses or just citizens from, wherever, Ohio, to come down here and move. All of those are connected components that make South Carolina great. and
Right.
attractive for citizens and our businesses.
Well, I want to bring this up because a lot of times people say, "Oh, you gave this company X amount of dollars."
Yeah.
You know, let's say 50 million, whatever it is. The difference is between the way that we have to do it versus other states is other states can either A, just wipe out the taxes completely, or offer tax credits for these businesses to build the roads, build the water, build the sewer, build everything themselves. The way that we typically do it is by giving, essentially it looks like we're giving them money, but what we are building is infrastructure.
Yeah.
We are building roads that the state owns. We are building sewer, water. We're building all of these things that are needed for any business, regardless of who it is, to come in, and it just becomes part of the deal.
Yep. And to that point, it's also there's clawbacks, right?
Right.
It's not just
if you don't hire this many people, then you don't get this funding.
Correct. Also workforce development.
Right.
They got to have training programs. They got to work with our tech schools, right, to develop training, personnel development that integrates into
But we're not paying them,
higher education,
as everyone says.
right. So yeah, that's a misnomer.
We're building that infrastructure, and we are having to give them what is known as a fee in lieu of taxes.
Yeah.
Because our tax rate might be, essentially, to simplify it, 10%.
Right.
Versus Georgia is at 3% and North Carolina at 4%, and we're trying to get them to bring the business here. Well, we can't just cut your taxes for one business. So what we do is we give you the fee in lieu of taxes in order to make up the difference there.
To be competitive.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And being here in York County, we are a border county.
Yeah.
We are competing with a state up in North Carolina that I think right now they have a 4.5% personal income tax rate. We have a 6.4.
Right.
Now again, we can talk about effective tax rates and all those things. But when you look at a schedule and they have what our personal income tax rate state by state, businesses look at these directories, and when they see personal income in North Carolina is 4.5, and down here in York County it's 6.5, they're like, hey, well, oh, and not to mention their corporate tax rate is
lower.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to have to get rid of a lot of the specific industries that might get taxed at a lower percentage.
Right.
And we're going to have to make that across the board.
So
it might appear to some industries that we're raising your tax rate, we're not.
Yeah.
Because you're always filing for these tax credits and
or just carve-outs.
Right.
I mean, plain and simple carve-outs.
And we're going to simplify it.
Right.
And I've often said that. Well, you shouldn't need to have to hire the best accountant to get the best tax rate.
Yeah.
It should be very simple. It should be more of a flat tax.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to move towards.
Yep. So next on the list was expand educational opportunities and enhance educational outcomes to better equip students for future success.
Yep. Removal of DEI.
Yeah.
From the educational institutions. I mean, that's our president's already said that's one of the top priorities. We started that last year. I think the Senate kind of killed it.
Well, let's give a little context. I heard some good remarks and some good information about, when we look at Donald Trump being elected president again, we now have, as a South Carolina Republican, we now have a friendly federal environment.
We've only had Biden to deal with.
Correct, you and I. And so that is something that I've never considered. And when a member, maybe even the speaker, brought this up, that, hey, guys, this past term, everything that we were passing, we had to worry about being sued by our own federal government, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to have to deal with that this go round. And I was like, hey, working as part of a team, I've never had that luxury. I'm kind of ready, man.
We should be able to make some things happen. I mean, Republicans have the majority in the House and the Senate.
On a state level and a national level.
Yeah.
And the executive.
Correct.
South Carolina literally mirrors what happened in our country. So
as they said on the news, this was a mandate.
Yeah.
Passed by the people.
So getting rid of DEI, and then we're
restoring school choice.
Yeah, that's going to come up again. The Supreme Court.
Now, I want to point something out to people, though, because I want them to really think about this. All of these are Republican platforms. But let's say you represent a district that has one of the best school districts in the entire state.
Yeah.
That rep is not going to be for dismantling their current school system that is doing so well.
Yeah.
So they might not be for the school choice that other districts are that feel like that it's the best way to move forward.
Right.
So you might have some Republicans that say, I'm not for this, or I am for this.
Yeah.
And the debate's going to happen.
And I love having those conversations.
Right.
You know,
and that's where the learning happens.
Yep. And so I will name drop. We took David Martin to dinner.
Right.
He is the freshman.
Out of Fort Mill.
Yep. That just took over when Ray Felder decided to not run again. He won his election. And we were at dinner. We were talking about school choice. And, he said, man, we got the best school district in the state.
Why do I want to change it?
Why would I be for school choice?
Yeah.
That's a legitimate question.
But he's one out of, 88 Republicans, 89 Republicans?
No, and the great thing is I really appreciated him saying that.
At least he's being honest, and he's representing his district.
I appreciated him saying that because it told me he was comfortable enough with us to say, hey, I know I'm the new guy, but I don't know if I support that.
Yeah.
And I said, great, man. And I think I even said, I was like, look, we work as a team, right? It's generally speaking, if there's an issue that your people do not look at favorably, you vote that way.
You have to represent your people first.
You represent your 40,000.
Right.
I'm going to represent mine, and you're going to represent yours. And so I just really enjoyed that he was that comfortable enough to say that. And that tells me...
Well, he's not part of a caucus that's going to make him... If he goes the opposite way, he's going to get kicked out. He's not on probation for the first year. It makes a difference.
Yeah, we don't... Yeah, so I admired that. I really did. I thought, I was like, you know what? He's ready. He's ready. And he's going to be a great addition to the York County delegation for sure.
I agree.
So, fifth.
Prioritize public safety and law and order policies.
Yep, and this is a big one. You and I talk to a lot of families. Fentanyl affects York County a lot.
Death by fentanyl.
The death by fentanyl bill. We folks, and if families that are out there that we've talked to, Guffey and I in the past, look, we failed you last time. We just didn't get it done.
Yeah.
We tried, and we didn't have the votes. We couldn't get it. The Senate passed it, and I don't know why. Whether it was because we were
political
freshmen,
games,
whether it was timing,
yeah,
there was higher priorities. I don't know, but I remember some of our attorneys, some members of the Republican caucus who are attorneys, said the way that Senate bill was written could cast a wide net and have some unintended consequences. So they committed that not getting into it last year, that they would look at it, get the language corrections made, and go after that again this term. So,
yeah, and the other thing on there,
I just want to get out of the gate early on that one.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
It needs to be done. We've got kids dying constantly.
Correct.
And nothing should be more important than protecting our next generation.
Yeah.
With any law, any level, any law, that's what should be most important. But we also have reforming our county magistrates on there, which was something we weren't able to do during judicial reform last time.
Well, I mean,
now, I'm not for making magistrates have to be attorneys.
Right.
Because I believe there's plenty of great law enforcement professionals that get appointed to magistrates. But, as far as the holdover status, that's got to change.
Yeah.
And I think Malloy was one of the biggest holdouts on that in the Senate, and now he's gone.
Yeah. And senators. Do I need to say any more?
All right.
Egos the size of Mount Rushmore.
They represent like 3 times as many people.
They don't want to give up their power, But no, I'm just kidding. Also, I think the magistrate level is what the monetary value of the cases that they can take on may raise a little. That way it'll help with the backlog.
Our magistrates in York County are not paid
Oh, I'm just saying
anywhere near other magistrates.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I just remember talking to, I believe it was Senator Michael Johnson, about some of that stuff of raising what falls into the responsibility of the magistrate courts versus our circuit courts and that sort of thing, raising that a little to help ease the burden on other courts. But
then our final pillar.
Yeah.
Strengthening families and communities by defending parental rights, supporting personal freedom, and promoting conservative values. So protecting property rights, I think, is huge. That's one of the things that I fought the most on whenever I was on council. Defend and support pro-life and Second Amendment policies, increase the rights of parents in the doctor's office and the classroom. That's something I've always hated, that a 13-year-old, and I understand whenever you might have someone that's being abused and you want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the parent ultimately is responsible for that child until they are 18.
Well, and there were some other things that, being a rep, it's a big learning process, right? We're learning every day because we're dealing with challenges and issues from 40,000 people.
And I know you do a pretty good job of having a grasp on so many different issues, but you can't be an expert in everything.
Yeah, so this was an issue that got brought up.
And keep that in mind whenever people are campaigning.
Earlier,
What are your top priorities?
Earlier this year, a constituent had a child and was going through some personal issues, mental health struggles, and this, that, and the other. And in order for that child to get, I believe it was therapy during school, where it was a therapist came into the school.
You can't have a therapist come into the school.
Or it was to get therapy while in school. I don't remember the exact details.
They could use the school therapist, but they can't have their personal therapist come.
The parents signed off and wanted their child, and this child was at the time, I think, 13 or 14. The child has to sign off too. And if the child doesn't sign the form and say, I'm ready to receive mental health support, they don't have to.
What?
Did you see? You just learned something.
They just need to end up like me and end up before a judge says, hey, you need some anger management classes.
Hey, man. So, again, I may have gotten the details wrong, but it's something like that. A 13, 14-year-old child, if they don't want it, mental health support. The parents can't.
That's wrong.
Yeah. There's something, and
it probably has something to do with some of these states trying to pray the gay away and doing things like that.
We should have James Burns.
It's got to be federal.
We've talked about, you and I both talked to James and other members of our school board a little bit, and some of the just quirky policies. And
we do need to have James on.
And I'm like, what the hell? And it just runs against common sense,
right.
But
that was government in general.
that was one of them. And that was just dealing with a constituents issue. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? That's your kid? Is it someone else's kid? They're like, nope. I was like, is it an adopted kid? No. Is it foster kid? No. That's my biological kid.
Yeah.
They the child who is suffering mental health issues and struggles.
That we say you're not old enough to make other decisions and you can't sign contracts.
Sure. Call your local school board and ask them. 13. If they're 13, they got to sign.
That's pretty much.
They got to say okay.
Well, it's kind of like the way we treat big tech treats all of our kids online.
Yeah.
If you're 13, they can't be held liable.
And another one when we were talking about protecting kids and stuff, and this goes to your passion, the deep fakes, the digital images online, and all those types of things. And no, we're not talking about the Freedom Party here. We're talking about trying to create state policies
to stop it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, man, you and I serve on the ad hoc AI committee. Looking forward to getting to that again.
Yeah.
And let's go back. I want to segue from AI for a second back to what Jeff Bradley talked about. So Jeff Bradley is our colleague out of Hilton Head. He chairs the ad hoc committee on AI, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Do you want to touch on some of the things that he talked about so last year we did a lot of really just listening and learning, right? And when
we found out how
and when we took away from that is how do we utilize AI and cybersecurity to benefit government services, how we
Right.
deliver government services to you, right? And I was excited to hear what he has sort of, in the off season, he's still working with some of this AI stuff. And
He's
tell the listener about
working to where we can take, and you and I are both on regulations as well.
with him as well.
Yeah. But, we're going to try to do a data dump of all of our regulations, throwing it into AI and remove a lot of the duplicate regulations, the overstepping,
The contradictory.
the out of date regulations. Like I remember whenever I was, right on county council, people would send me as like, oh, did you know in York County, you still got to fire your shotgun in the air whenever you go through a intersection. I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, that was back from the olden days that you just shot up in the air. Now, of course, you got city ordinances and stuff that say you can't fire a firearm within city limits. But those types of regulations, let's just get rid of them.
And so
you want to talk about shrinking government? That is the quickest way to shrink government.
And again, we talked about earlier how South Carolina statewide is literally a microcosm of the macro that's going on nationally, right?
Yeah.
We have an executive that's Republican-led. We have a House and a Senate that has majorities. And I'm just excited to see on a federal level, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are leading up the
Doge.
Doge. What is it?
Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah. And so what Jeff
They
Bradley...
said 2 years. 2 years is the only time they're giving themselves to do it, too.
Yep. What Jeff Bradley talked about in utilizing AI and basically taking the digitized version of all the regs in South Carolina, throwing it in a hopper, and this thing spitting out a list, a to-do list of what we're going to have to do on regs to eliminate and cut the red tape is awesome.
I mean, can you imagine how many regs we could eliminate just by throwing DNR's regs in there?
Here we go. Here we go with the taking of deer that's eating my corn again. I tell you, you should be on ag. What are you doing, man? I mean, chickens?
No, it's the
Deer?
regs. It's the regs. It's the regs. And all of that's based on property rights.
Yeah.
You have the right to defend your property. And government does not have the right to tell you that you cannot provide for your own family by having chickens on your property, especially if you're living in the county and you got over an acre of land. Like, that was just stupid. That's the reason I got into the chicken fight.
Whatever, man. But yeah, so, looking forward to being a part of the deep fake, keeping digital images, keeping those off the internet, and then penalizing the offenders.
Yeah.
And the folks who want to look at 8 to 12-year-old girls and you're a 35-year-old married guy with kids, you're going to go to jail.
Or just
you're going to be prosecuted.
Just a perv.
I
Period. I mean,
mean,
if you're looking at kids that age, you need to go to jail.
No. That moves from, a little bit of a perv to a criminal.
Yeah.
In my mind and in your mind. I know you're making a joke. But so yeah, looking forward to it. I'm excited again.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a tie made for any of our listeners out there that want to help me. I want to get a customized tie made that says "Pedo lives don't matter," or
oh boy,
just so I can wear it.
Well, and little side note, I talked to you about this yesterday. So while we were around campus in the statehouse, I learned now the South Carolina Student Legislature, for all of those folks who were history or poli-sci nerds in college, it is basically what youth in government what youth in government was in high school.
Yeah.
Is the college level. So all participating universities, Carolina, Clemson, Coastal, Citadel, Bob Jones, Erskine, there was a lot of schools involved, large and medium and small schools, Charleston Southern. And based on the student population was basically how many members you could have and serve on a state level. So like South Carolina had 29 delegates.
Yeah.
Clemson had 18 delegates, and we'd all come down to Columbia and basically have a mock Congress where we would write laws, go through committees, and I think we came in on a Wednesday and left on a Friday or Saturday. But it was a hyper, time constraint thing, but you had committee, you had
kind of like Boys State for college.
Correct. So I ran into some of those. I actually ran into the governor and the lieutenant governor while they were up on the 5th floor in Blott and got to talking to them. And come to find out, the South Carolina Student Legislature program has sort of, COVID really hit it hard because they couldn't get together, membership waned, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I told them about when I was chairperson of the University of South Carolina delegation when I was in college. We made it a point that when we passed laws at the state convention, we would come to the statehouse and pick 2 or 3 laws and go try to lobby members, real members of the General Assembly, to try to pick up that idea and make it a real state law.
Yeah.
You're never going to guess. Never. I mean, God's a fair guy, okay? You're never going to imagine. The governor of the South Carolina Student Legislature, from Bob Jones, said, well, we did have a law that got passed out, and I signed it. And I said, what is that? And she said, chemical castration
For pedos.
for pedophiles.
Anyone
convicted
13 and under.
pedophiles.
So
And
I'm gonna stop my pre-file.
And I
we'll
said,
try to
are
do
you
it that
kidding
way.
me? And she goes, no, why? I said, I've got some sponsors who will pick that up. I'm an alum.
Yeah.
Let me help your organization out. Let's raise your profile. Let's have a press conference. And we
get it going.
have a lead sponsor right here, the man in the goatee. I mean, literally, you were talking about it.
I've already
what,
got it
2,
written.
3,
I just
4
got to keep it from
episodes
being
now.
pre-filed now.
Yeah. And so I thought that was
Let them
great.
go through it and let them add in the different things. And the rest of my pre-files, I ended up changing a lot of my tech bills
Yeah.
to go from putting it on the AG to have to enforce a lot of this to bringing private right of action.
Okay.
Considering we got 2/3 attorneys in the state house,
They'll
I'm
love
sure
that.
they would prefer the private right of action against these big tech companies that are not protecting our kids.
Talking to you, Cody Mitchell.
Yeah. and then the insurance companies will love it too, because then the tech companies probably have to get some insurance to cover themselves.
Oh. Oh. Ain't a spring chicken no more, boys and girls. Learning the system, are we?
Well, I mean, considering how many tech laws that I had.
Nope. But you know what that is? You are learning to align goals.
Right.
You are figuring out universal how to align goals to obtain your goal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And in the meantime, making South Carolina a better place.
That's ultimately what it's about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you just got to get passed out of the Senate.
They got a lot of attorneys over there too.
You know, being a South Carolina Gamecock, they throw this on right before the fourth quarter.
I peaked in high school, so I didn't get all that.
All right, we got football, baby.
Yes.
Man, I tell you, it's been a fun season. Roller coaster for the Gamecocks, you know. Stumbled out of the gates, it seems like. I mean, we gave LSU a run, Alabama a run.
Gamecocks have shown that they're for real.
So I think we're, 6-3 now? Man, played another good game on the road against, a decent Vandy team. But I tell you, man, it's that defense. Defense, defensive line, the edge rushers. I mean, Worry, as a free safety, the DBs. I mean, they're complete. They are. And my only concern is the rat poison is multiplying. You know what I mean? I mean, I see on social media now that power rankings and, all the stuff that we
I think
should
they
be
got y'all ranked
like 12,
third
13th.
in the SEC now. I
Yeah,
think.
and I'm like, what? And I'm like, guys, I mean, don't get me wrong, this defense is for real, but we're 6-3.
Yeah.
Okay? We lost to Ole Miss. We lost to LSU.
Is there a path to the playoffs, period?
Stop it. That's what I'm saying.
Is there?
You are just
I'm
throwing
asking.
rat poison.
I'm asking. Simple
No,
question. Don't be
no.
a Freedom Caucus member.
No, there is
Just answer
not.
the question.
There is not. There is not a reasonable path to the playoff. No, there's not. But you know what? There is a reasonable path to whooping Missouri's ass tomorrow. You know what I mean? Let's do that. Let's just go.
Yeah, Missouri's only got a 2-loss.
Yeah,
right?
They're a good squad. I think we're both ranked.
And and Missouri and South Carolina is usually a good game anyway.
Oh yeah. I don't know what it is.
23 and 24.
Yeah. Yep. And I think where are we? Where are we playing? Oh, we're playing at 4:00. I think is why.
Yep,
Yeah.
4:15.
So ESPN has them ranked 23 Missouri at 21 South Carolina. Sorry, I took a brief pause there. South Carolina's giving 14. Even the bettors are eating the rat poison.
Whew.
Folks, this is a coin flip game. It just is. Like, let's stop with rat poison. But again, I said it about
Hadn't seen that type of hype since Garcia.
Oh, here we go.
But Lenore Sellers is looking good.
He
is getting better every week.
I went back and listened to just our football segment of last week because I was like, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's hard to when I watch them live at the A&M game. I said that was their most complete game.
Yeah.
And then they do a similar performance against Vandy on the road. They beat a team by 3 touchdowns.
Did you ever think that you'd be bragging about beating Vandy, though?
Hey, I never thought they'd be in the top 25. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, hey, in the SEC, rising tide lifts all boats.
You got Georgia and Tennessee coming up this week, too.
Yeah, so here is my Saturday. Clemson Pitt at noon.
Woo. And Clemson is losing the series to Pitt 3-2.
Yeah.
Pitt is our modern day Maryland that we stumble with.
Oh, that's right. And then we got our game against Missouri at 4. And then we have the night game. Volunteers at Georgia.
Yeah.
I tell you,
it's going to be a good football day.
That's manna from heaven right there. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said, Sellers seems to be progressing. He's getting better. And I tell you what, if I was a defensive coach going up against South Carolina right now, I'd say don't hit Sellers above the belt line. Just tackle him.
He's going to truck you.
Don't try. A&M did it. It happened against Vandy where I thought he was down being sacked, and all of a sudden he comes out of a pile.
I seen one of the former Gamecock players, I think it was on Steven Garcia's podcast.
Oh, yeah, Tailgaters or whatever?
Yeah, and he said something about, he's like, so why are you sliding? And Sellers like, I don't know. He's like, man, your size, why are you sliding? And it showed the clip, the next play.
Of the A&M where he ran the guy over for
just
the first
run him
down.
over.
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you, when he did that, the whole stadium just was lit.
I mean, that's the way it was with Cam Newton whenever he's with the Panthers.
Oh, man.
Like, you're just not used to seeing a quarterback that big, just
that fast.
Yeah.
I know. So, and he's seeing the field better, it seems like.
He's getting comfortable.
Yeah.
It takes everyone, regardless of what your profession is.
Yep.
You have to get comfortable, and as you move up, things move quicker. You're having to start all over. You feel like you're behind.
Well, and hope he doesn't seem to be thinking as much either. You know, he's
allowing his natural ability.
He has plenty of experience now.
Which is what Clemson's quarterback needs to do more of.
So think about Sellers' progression. He was out a game and a half, right? That LSU game.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, a lot of people don't remember. We lost to LSU by 3.
Without Sellers.
Without Sellers in the second half and organized crime in the refs.
Yeah.
You know, stealing a touchdown or 2.
As a Tiger, I still think that y'all should have won that game. That was definitely
no. Again, I liked how Coach Beamer said we got to play smarter, not give the refs
the opportunity. I mean, that's just.
But man, that one hurt.
John Fox comment.
That LSU.
It is
hurt.
what it is.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm hopeful. I think we can get Missouri, and then move on to Wofford, and then we got you guys. So y'all got your hands full.
We got
Pitt.
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
for sure
in Pitt. And Pitt is.
And it's a noon game.
Did Pitt lose last week? Why are they not ranked? They were ranked.
Yeah, they lost. Remember, SMU smashed them.
But SMU is ranked 14th now, so you wouldn't figure it'd knock them down that far.
Yeah, I think Pitt is overall 7-2, 3-2 in the conference.
Yeah, 7-2. Yep.
They have back-to-back losses. Oh, I know why. It's because they lost to Virginia, 24-19 last week. Ooh, that is an ugly loss.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And I know Virginia gave y'all a little bit of trouble in the first half. It was like 17-10.
I think Clemson has to have is SMU to lose. to really have a chance to play for the ACC championship.
Yeah, right now,
Miami lost one.
SMU is 5-0 in the conference. You guys are 6-1, and Miami's 5-1.
Yeah.
But a lot of football left. Do you remember, I mean, there's been plenty of championship hopes dashed on the last.
Alabama, Auburn back in the day.
You know, I think I remember Pitt, West Virginia. West Virginia was going to the national
Yeah.
title game, and they end up losing to a team that no one saw them losing to. So, yeah, still a lot of football left. I think, you know, we were in a group chat, and I saw Miami lose to Georgia. Georgia Tech. What is the deal?
You can't sleep on Georgia Tech.
You can't.
You really can't.
Hey, they
Georgia Tech is the ACC's Vandy now.
Georgia Tech single-handedly ruined Chris Norville in the FSU season when he beat him across the pond, and it just went downhill from there.
Oh, did you see DJ is redshirting now? Injury redshirt, so he can come back next year?
Stop.
I don't know how real it is. I've been seeing
as
it
a
pop
tight
up.
end?
No, I've been seeing it pop up constantly.
No way.
That he's got an injury and he's filing to redshirt.
I did see that.
Injury redshirt.
No. But yeah, so I
you
think
know
I
you never
saw
can believe anything you see anymore.
the Clemson game against Pitt. Excuse me. Y'all are giving 12. Yeah.
It depends on which Klubnik shows up.
No, I'm saying, but
he's had.
Oh, excuse me. It just went. Clemson is giving 13.5. Holy smokes!
You can tell who gambles between the two of us. I don't follow any of that stuff.
What do these folks? What do these folks know that we don't
Fantasy
know? Fantasy
football, one group a year that'll pay a little bit of money just to participate in is about the only gambling I do.
No. I'm looking at the ESPN website.
Oh yeah.
And because it's now online legal, they have the lines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I got a text this week from a friend that is in education and a football coach and said, I'm tired of driving to North Carolina to place my bets each week. Like, when are we going to legalize gambling? I was like, my district's probably not going to, but the rest of the state may.
Well, so funny you mentioned that. We were talking about online sports betting at our table.
Yeah.
And we have a member in Representative Chris Murphy who has been working on a bill to do just that. And I think we talked about this on a prior episode where a sports writer had contacted me to comment on last term's attempt to legalize online sports betting. And he threw out some stats that were staggering. Whereas,
I mean, right now, truthfully, anybody can just go incognito on their phone and place a bet.
Yeah.
It'll just show up as a different state.
Yep, but
so we're not stopping anyone from
the
betting.
benefit of being in a border county like we are, if you do want to place a bet, you can just ride 20 minutes and make it and turn around and come back. But he is working on that. Folks, we can talk about it in an episode. Maybe when we go down there again, maybe we should have Murphy on the show. But North Carolina alone, I think the highest amount of gambling online was 500-something million. That was what was bet online in North Carolina. The low was somewhere in the.
What's the VIG for the state?
I think it's. I think Chris was saying in his bill it's 15%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, hey, there's our gap. Let's totally eliminate income tax.
Get that in.
But I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars our citizens bet on. Well, North Carolina citizens bet on sports online.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that much. That's a staggering number. They said March and April are the biggest months. And you know why?
March Madness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think football season. Super Bowl or.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Now that we got college playoff, maybe that'll eclipse that April mark.
Last time I really bet, I think I was working at restaurants, and they'd bring around these little parlay cards that you had to choose.
Oh, yeah, like the old bookie cards, Man.
You always had some guy that worked at a factory or something that was kind of running it, would print them off and then run them by for everybody that wanted to participate.
And then when you hit that 10-on-3, you wouldn't see him for 2 weeks,
Me personally, I've always looked at gambling, and I would have this argument sometimes with my parents as well, and they would always bring up the Christian values, and I would often say, even gambling wasn't banned in Jesus' time. It wasn't something. It's something that people should try to avoid if it goes against their beliefs. But I don't see it any different than putting money into a video game.
Right.
And if you're putting money in there for entertainment and you're playing, as long as you're not
game of chance.
The problem that we had is this area was devastated by video poker.
Yes.
People were cashing their entire
right? From here all the way over to Spartanburg, Greenville area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had, the video poker guys were all out of Rock Hill that were putting the machines out everywhere. So you had some people that were doing really good. And then you watched others that were just, instead of feeding their kids, they were wasting their paycheck on video poker.
God. Well, and that just goes to, if it's not video poker, they're probably going to find something else.
Yeah. I mean, that was the argument over alcohol whenever Prohibition happened.
Yeah.
They're drinking and then they're coming in beating their wives and kids and everything else. And it's like, well, once we legalize it, it's not like those numbers went up.
Yeah.
Other than just population.
Man, video poker, man, that was something.
Oh, I was good at video poker. My mom, one of her jobs was working at a little pool hall / gas station that had video poker machines in the back.
She give you $5,
and it had pool tables up front.
Yeah.
And I would always hang out there, so I'd shoot pool most of the time. But every once in a while,
8-year-old Guffey,
I couldn't win.
Smoking 100.
Yeah. I couldn't
running the 8-ball table.
anything that I won, but the owner of the store would allow me to play.
Oh, okay.
So he would give me money to put into the machine. I would play, but if it won, I didn't get paid out.
Okay.
So I could sit there and keep myself busy, but I would play video poker. And I remember, the first time I hit a royal flush, I was like, holy crap. And that thing, ding, 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 ding. I can't play Texas Hold'em worth of crap, but I can play some video poker.
Man, Guffey getting pimped out. That's hilarious. Well, so what do you think? You think Clemson's going to win tomorrow?
I think they will. I think it really depends on which keg shows up. I mean, Klubnik has been, whenever he's off, he is off.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it boils down to confidence. You watched how Clemson came out of the gate and started lighting people up.
After the Georgia game, you mean?
Yeah. Klubnik had that confidence all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, that confidence disappeared.
Well, it did
and he started
the Georgia game. It disappeared in the Georgia game.
No.
And
I'm talking about after Georgia.
He's got PTSD after that Georgia
game. It disappeared further down. But, yeah, I mean, in our other loss, he was just off.
Yeah.
He's throwing the ball too high. He's throwing it too low. And maybe, I like to say he just wanted to be like Manziel and probably went out a little too late the night before.
Stop. Yeah, and I think
it's a college kid.
I think the Gamecocks win. I just think it's probably going to be closer.
But y'all are in South Carolina. South Carolina is becoming a environment that is tough to win in.
What do you mean becoming? It's been that way since the 80s, son. All right, we want to thank our sponsors, Comer Distributing. And thank you, Off the Tracks. Cloud and them guys over there do a great job. This week's pint was Making Love at Midnight. It was a pineapple toasted coconut wheat beer. 5%.
I didn't taste pineapple, coconut
you didn't?
at all. It was just a good beer. It was a good sipper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not too heavy, not too light.
Right.
Yep, agreed. But, again, thanks to Comer Distributing.
Yes, absolutely. And
thanks to Tad, producer, makes us look great and sound great.
You got the better camera. That's the only reason I don't look as good, guys.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Just remember those who make this life so easy.